Hi everyone, this is Sam with the Wine News in 5. Before I get to the news, I'd like to congratulate the winners of our wine writing competition. Out of an unprecedented 309 entries, 25 were chosen for the shortlist. The judges could not decide between Shishir Baksi's Monsoon Diaries with Riesling and Raquel Jones's A Vestige to Tempranillo, so we awarded them both first place. Our runner-up was Stephen Norton's Ode to Romorantin, and we had two highly commended entries, Dr. Monique Bell's Daughter of Scuppernong and Annaline Stradaman's I Am Not Bitter. The Reader's Choice winner was Marina Revkova's Odessa Black, The Grape That Waited. The Reader's runner-up was Kat Fitzpatrick's Gewürztraminer, The Most Transsexual Grape. And finally, the Reader's highly commended was Daria Antonenko's Teltikuruk, Fox's Tail, and Smell of Sea. Congratulations to all who won and all who were shortlisted, and thank you to the Académie de Vin Library and glassware maker Richard Brennan for sponsoring the competition and for donating the prizes. I also want to mention that next month, on October 30th, at the Morris in San Francisco, we're hosting a dinner to celebrate the site's 25th anniversary, and it's going to feature more than a dozen wines, many of them old and rare, that Jancis has hand-selected. Jancis, Alder, and I will be dining with you. I'll link to where you can find tickets for that in the transcript of this newscast on our site. In terms of global news, today I'll discuss harvest in Austria, Savoie and California, Douro's oversupply plan, Gallo's acquisition of Whiny Baby, a surge in wine imports to India, Académie Internationale du Vin's open letter, and new regulations on the use of copper as a fungicide in France. First up, harvest in Austria, Savoie, and California. On September 9th, Johannes Schmuckenschlager, president of the Austrian Wine Growers Association, told attendees of a press conference that Austria's harvest is expected to yield 2.5 million hectoliters, which is a 34% increase over last year's minuscule harvest and a return to near average levels. Quality is expected to be good. On September 12th, Vitisphere reported that the Savoie region of France expects 105,000 to 110,000 hectoliters this vintage, which is about an average level. This is a relief to wine growers who struggled with tiny yields in the 2024 vintage. While Austria and Savoie are celebrating a return to average yields, Wine Searcher reported on September 18th that California growers are leaving fruit on the vine due to an oversupply of wine and a lack of demand from consumers. While quality is reportedly good, Jeff Bitter, president of Allied Grape Growers, questioned whether California would pick 2 million tons this year. To put that in perspective, California hasn't harvested less than 2.5 million tons since 1987. Blake Gray points out that in 1987, California had 80% less vineyard acreage. As if to corroborate the lack of demand, KSBY news station reported on September 18th that between 2023 and 2024, San Luis Obispo County in California saw sales of wine grapes decline by 40%, from nearly $324 million to just under $195 million. San Joaquin County, where Lodi is, reported a 19% drop in sales during the same period. On to Douro's oversupply plan. Thank you to news listener Denise Rousseau for making me aware of the following. On September 9th, the Diário da República, the official gazette of Portugal, published a decree recognizing an oversupply of 4.4 million hectoliters of wine, 280% of annual production in the Douro, and setting out measures to help wine growers. This decree created a short-term emergency distillation fund of 15 million euros from the state budget, which allows producers to collect 50 cents per kilo of grapes destined for distillation. It also proposed the possibility of voluntary uprooting of vineyards in DOP Porto, halting all planting authorizations, converting vineyards to alternative crops, imposing penalties on anyone misusing the DOP Porto designation, and increasing controls on any wine entering the Douro. Next, Gallo's acquisition of Whiny Baby. Despite the fact that Gallo has closed 2 large winery production facilities in the last year and laid off dozens of employees, on September 17th it was announced that they had acquired the brand Whiny Baby. Whiny Baby is a California-based wine brand launched by Jess Drury in 2022 with the goal of making wine more attractive to Gen Z. Drewy will stay on as the head of Whiny Baby, as well as assuming a consulting role for Gallo. On to a surge in wine imports to India. On September 13th, VinoJoy News reported that data released by India's Ministry of Commerce shows that in the 6 months between January and June 2025, India imported just under 2.6 million liters of wine, valued at just over $12.5 million US dollars. This represents a 50% growth in volume and 21% growth in value year on year. Next, Académie Internationale du Vin's open letter. A press release I received on September 18th informed me that the Académie Internationale du Vin, an organization founded in 1971 that's made up of around 100 of the world's most respected wine personalities from 20 wine-producing countries, has written an open letter to the heads of government of all United Nations member states urging against the denormalization of wine initiated by the World Health Organization's No Safe Level message. They've chosen this moment to send their letter because on September 25th at the 80th United Nations General Assembly, world leaders will be asked to vote to reduce the harmful use of alcohol by, and I quote, banning or comprehensively restricting exposure to alcohol advertising, restricting the physical availability of retailed alcohol, and enacting and enforcing drink driving laws. The AIV states in its letter that it would welcome an independent, randomized, long-term study on the effects of alcohol rather than the insufficient observational data currently in use. Finally, new regulations on the use of copper as a fungicide in France. I've been avoiding this topic as it's complicated, and I keep hoping that there's going to be more of a resolution. However, it's gained quite a bit of steam in the last week, so it's probably time we talk about it. Back on June 12th, ANSES, the French Agency for Food, Environmental, and Occupational Health and Safety, published a report on the socioeconomic impacts of limiting or withdrawing copper-based fungicides in agriculture. Copper, which builds up in soil and is very toxic to the soil microbiome, remains the most widely used, effective, and least costly treatment for downy mildew, and it is one of the only treatments approved for organic viticulture. In their report, ANSES estimated that if the allowable limit for copper in organic viticulture were halved to 2 kilograms per hectare per year, grape yields per hectare would drop by 25% in the Mediterranean region and 34% in the Atlantic region. If copper were eliminated, yields would be reduced by 50%. In the event of severe disease pressure, ANSES estimated that there would be 70% crop losses in the Atlantic region and 90% in the south of France. Those numbers make halving or eliminating copper an unsustainable option for viticulture, especially organic viticulture. And yet, on July 15th, ANSES declined to renew marketing authorization for 20 out of 22 copper-containing fungicides that applied this year. A report on September 17th in Vitisphere adds that ANSES has also cut the allowable limit for the 2 remaining products, instituted a 7-day minimum spray interval, meaning you can only spray once every 7 days, prohibited the use of these products within 10 meters of a house and within 50 meters of waterway, and banned their use during flowering. For 2026 harvest, vine growers still have access to 17 copper-based fungicides, which have yet to come up for renewal. However, producers are wondering if these products will be subject to the same restrictions when they do come up for renewal. Julien Franclet, president of Sudvin Bio, was quoted by Vitisphere as saying, "We knew that copper was in the hot seat, but when ANSES released its report on the cost of its ban, we thought it would stall while viable alternatives were found. But that's not the case. If these rules become widespread, organic producers will revert to conventional production, and conventional producers will use even more synthetic products." That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancesrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email me at news@jancesrobinson.com. Thanks.